My neighbor's son tried to steal my restored 1947 pickup truck. Now he's in jail. His family is suing me, and they're losing everything. I have recently come into the possession of a 1947 International pickup truck, a monster of a Ford that looks fantastic now that I've cleaned it up and changed the fluids. It even has the original Black Diamond inline 6-cylinder engine. Not bad for a barn find. Gorgeous old truck and very desirable, as I have come to find out. Now that it's all legal, I have begun driving it regularly and often find myself getting waved at, honked at, and even asked to pull over a couple of times so someone could have a look at it. I'm constantly getting offers for it as well. It's not for sale and never will be. It's my most treasured possession already, and I plan on showing it off at different truck rallies and get-togethers. This incident took place at a local gas station convenience store. It had started off pretty much a normal day. I've gotten used to the honks and stares already. Nothing unusual when you own an unusual vehicle to me. I pulled into a local 7-Eleven's to get gas and a snack. I hadn't had breakfast yet that day, and went in. I got myself a breakfast burrito and paid for gas. And when I stepped out and made my way back to my truck, I found some teenagers sitting behind the wheel of my truck, looking as if he was trying to drive it. I yelled before I got to my truck for the kid to get out. It's not his truck. When I got to it, he still hadn't moved and said, "This truck is so cool. Want to sell it? It's not for sale, kid. Now get out before I yank you out of it. But everything is for sale, and I want it. You're not getting it. It isn't for sale." And I opened the door, at which the kid suddenly bolted and ran off. Kids these days, I muttered to myself, thinking the matter was over. Boy, was I wrong. I had just filled the tank and went back and got my change, taking time to lock the doors this time before going back in and coming back out. When I got back to my truck, there stood the kid with an adult next to him. He said, "My son wants this truck. Hand it over now." Not going to happen. And if you don't back off of a truck, you're not getting it. I'm calling the sheriff and making you back off. You're giving us that truck, or we're taking it. I simply pulled out my cell phone and started dialing the non-emergency number, at which the man went white and said, "Hey now, I was just kidding. You want to sell it?" I told him, already points at the kid. "It's not for sale and won't be. Now I suggest you be gone before the sheriff arrives." They were suddenly gone, but that isn't the end of the matter yet. The sheriff arrived. I described the incident to him, and they checked the security cameras outside the store. But there wasn't much they could do without having seen the incident or having witnesses willing to talk to them. So I went on about my day, doing some shopping at the local Wally World and stopping at a local specialty parts shop to order some parts for the truck that specializes in classic and antique vehicles, and headed home. I got home, and for a few hours everything was fine. I had, however, parked my truck in a secured garage on my property, as I usually do, to keep the truck out of the weather, and considering what happened earlier, good thing too. Because as I found out, these two were not done trying to get my truck. Late that evening, just as I hit the bed, I heard some unusual noises around the garage. I looked out and saw two figures prowling about the garage, first trying a security window, then trying to pull the garage doors open. So I snuck out my back door with a shotgun in hand, rounds loaded with rock salt and pork rinds. Very painful, but not deadly, unless at near point-blank range. I load my own shotgun and rifle rounds. Briefly, rock salt, when forced into the skin, produces an intense burning sensation, and pork rinds glue themselves to human flesh, as if superglued to it, and must be forcibly peeled away without the appropriate solvents. Extremely painful either way. The next thing these two heard was a ka-chunk of a shotgun round being loaded into a shotgun chamber, and they froze. Then a quiet but firm voice on the ground. "Now, both of you." Shortly both were on their faces, hands behind the back of their heads, and they lay there until the sheriff arrived. When the sheriff arrived, I laid my shotgun aside as they demanded, and accepted being cuffed for the time being. They yanked the two off the ground none too gently, and pulled them over to the cruiser they arrived in. They questioned me, and took the cuffs off after taking possession of the shotgun temporarily, and questioned them separately. I told my side of it, making special note that I believed they were after my antique truck, and told them of the earlier incidences that day. They had the unmitigated gall to claim I had stolen their old truck and had it stashed in the garage, and they were just trying to get it back. When they asked, I produced the title and registration of the truck, and even let them into the garage so they could run the plates. All came back as registered to me and me alone. I had the fun of giving these two a brilliant smile and a wave goodbye as they were driven off and taken to jail, court date pending at this point. We'll update when I have more info, but I may be limited on what I can post here. I got my shotgun back after proving it was mine and having to reclaim it from the department, but no big deal. They're still in jail at this point, charged with trespass, attempted theft, attempted auto theft, and several other charges. I was there for their initial appearance, and when the judge asked if there was any objection to them being ordered, I, of course, objected. Yes, I was being vindictive. I stated they wanted my truck so badly, they snuck onto my property at night to try to steal it. I fear if they're released, they will try again. Always denied. Now you'd think this was the end of it, but it gets better. I'll relay that in another post in the future. Let's just say an entitled woman tossed her hat into the arena via a lawsuit. A small addendum for those reading my story that intend to create shotgun loads, as I have. Be careful. Even though the rounds are not considered lethal, you can still easily blind someone if the round hits them on the face, and they can still be lethal at close or point-blank range. Update. All the obligatory from my previous post applies here. Well, I had thought the matter of my truck was done, but I've already received several threatening calls and a threat of a lawsuit. The calls I have recorded after the first one, and I have already submitted them to law enforcement, and the initial incident took place basically yesterday. Calls from a very angry-sounding woman and very entitled in tone of voice. I have a feeling I know who it is, as the voice sounds very familiar. But I cannot say who for legal reasons, and to stay within the page's guidelines. Tomorrow, I'm moving my truck into a more secure parking storage, just to make sure, because in my mind, the level of entitlement I'm dealing with is as bad as the ant. I escaped some time ago that tried to move into a house I had just purchased against my wishes. I found out from a friend that that kid still wants my truck and is determined to get even from jail. He was heard bragging that once he has it, he's going to modify it into a total mud hog, or so he thinks. It's good to have friends in certain places. This keeps up, and the kid and his father will be facing additional harassment charges and possibly terroristic threatening charges. We will see. More updates coming. Update. Disclaimer first. I'll remind everyone that my punctuation and writing skills, I'm no pro writer. If you must roast me, use all appropriate spices. All here is a matter of public record. And I will not discuss politics and personal matters in my story. Please stick within the guidelines, and the deliberately rude and trolls will be blocked from my page. Well, the threatened lawsuit has materialized. Apparently, I'm getting sued for intimidation, threats and false reporting, and causing a false arrest. But on the good side, those two still have not been able to make bail. I'm not worried. I have myself filed a countersuit for trespassing, attempted theft, and harassment the recorded calls. With those in the camera images, it's pretty much a guaranteed win. Plus the camera images from the convenience store that initially started this whole mess. Now I know who it is that has been making the threatening calls as well. Let's just say she is a well-known and very much hated mega Karen known by the whole town. And I found out thanks to my friend. Those two are now in protective custody. While in jail, it seems they just can't keep their mouths shut. They tried to start a fight with a fellow that's in jail. That's the type you just don't mess with for any reason, and got themselves severely beaten. I've also come to find out the level of entitlement I'm dealing with is mind-boggling. One of the calls I recently got was someone telling me to drop the charges and just turn the truck over, and I would have no more trouble, as if I told the person to take a flying F at a rolling donut and hung up. And I have already turned a copy of the recording over to the cops. I've also since added a sign to my front gate. Trespassers will be shot. Survivors will be shot again. And I mean every word of it. I have also added security cameras, where they are focused on the front gate. I've also noticed a car that has been driving past my gate from time to time. Hasn't been making an appearance since the installation of the sign and cameras. As far as the charges those two sitting in jail are facing, since I have been asked by several people, they are trespassing with intent to commit theft, attempted theft of a belong to them, and recently added, threats to commit bodily harm. Threats made towards me not long after being processed into jail. The prosecutor is also considering adding terroristic threatening to the list of charges, as well the phone calls. More than that, I cannot say. I am bound by the law not to, but I can say, and I just found out by doing some searching, is these two have a long list of criminal activities, a long list. And they have been in and out of jail numerous times. They're not going to see free air for a long time after this. It was also found out after law enforcement got a search warrant and searched their property that several stolen and missing items were there, including several missing tractors hidden in a barn on their property. So there's more charges there in a separate case. Either way, these two are screwed lol. Oh, and thank you to the people who have given me the awards and even some coins. They are very greatly appreciated. Update. Some good news. Their lawsuit fell through. The judge has looked at the case and tossed it, calling it frivolous and a waste of time. It was hilarious. I already got an attempt at a call. According to the recording, the person was screaming and raving about having her suit tossed and blaming me for it. Then she made a huge mistake, saying clearly that one way or another, she would have that truck for her son. I immediately called the cops, and she wound up getting herself arrested. I don't know on what charges yet, but as soon as I know, I will post it if I can. Oh, and since some have asked, update. Well, today I found out that the mother has indeed been arrested for making terroristic threats, a very serious felony charge in my state. It's likely that the charge won't stick, but hopefully it will teach her that it is known who she is, and it is known she is the one that has been making threatening calls. She also, as of today, has been served with a cease and desist order and a no-contact order as well. The kid and father are still in jail, having not been able to bail out, both now in protective custody for not being able to keep their mouths shut to other prisoners. I myself, as of today, have filed suit against them as well for harassment, threats and intimidation, terroristic threatening, attempted theft, making false claims, attempted theft of personal property, attempted theft of property valued at over $1,000, all attorney fees, and defamation of character. My attorney assures me easily have enough evidence to win a suit, so I filed today. We win. And they refuse to pay. I'll simply file for liens against any properties they have of any value. That means their selfish entitlement in the end will cost them everything. And I really don't care at this point if they're left homeless. They made their beds. Now they can lay in them and expect no more mercy than they have given me. Update. I'm back with the latest shenanigans of this entitled family. Once again, this family has tried something really stupid, and this time has gotten themselves into some serious trouble. Apparently, the father and son finally made bail and immediately set about trying to find my truck. The idiots actually tried to break into the facility that I have my truck stored in, and they got busted as they tried to break in. As a result, they are now back in jail, this time having their bail deferred and refused, and of course blaming me for it. The matriarch of the family tried to confront me publicly and got herself arrested for breaking the no-contact order in place and spent 2 days in jail. She even hired a PI to watch my property to see if they could catch me at something. I confronted this PI directly and told him I know he's been hired to watch my house and to be prepared to be constantly run off by the local sheriff's department. He cannot enter my property without my permission, and I have security cameras everywhere on my property. And he knows he cannot get on my property without being caught on cam. He vanished a few days later after getting run off a few times. All of it just adds material to the suit I currently have in action against them. Honestly, the entitlement of these people is stunning. And the determination to get my truck is beyond belief. I mean, even after it's obvious they're not getting my truck, they're still trying to outright steal it to the point of trying to break into a secured storage facility to get it. However, I will be taking everything from them. At one point, I would have dropped the liens I have on their properties and some valuable items, but not after this last stunt. I lost all willingness to be nice about all this. Sorry to answer a question or two. Yes, this family is very well known to local law enforcement, and these are not the first problems they have caused in the area. One of their family members is currently serving a lifetime sentence based on the 3 strikes you're out law. Got himself nearly beaten to death from messing with a biker that was in the area, visiting a family member of his own, and got beaten nearly to death when confronted a few days later by the biker's boss and charged with an assault and battery. In the end, they're trying to take what they're not getting is going to cost them more than they can imagine, including their house and land. The eldest son is also in prison doing a 25 to life sentence for beating a disabled teen, a really nice boy well known and liked about town by the locals that suffers from Down syndrome. This fool thought the boy was hitting on his imagined girlfriend and beat him so badly the boy spent 6 months in the hospital and may never walk properly again. Charged with assault with intent to do grave bodily harm with aggravating circumstances and attempted murder. Hence the T25 to life sentence. As it stands, I have them bent over a proverbial barrel, and they just don't realize it yet, but they will. Once the suit is successful, I will be calling in those lions I have now, and they will pay, but it will take time. I'm not worried, though. I have the time and patience to let things play out as they will. Tomorrow I go back to the courts and file a request to have the no contact and protective orders expanded to include any and all observation against them. This will include hiring people to observe and watch me, and I will get it considering their latest shenanigans. To all those who have given me coins and gifts, thank you very much. Keep following for the latest shenanigans, and I will do my best to keep my followers updated on the current goings-on about this entitled family.